Character Creation Part 5 Roundup. Hi, Gail again. This is the last instalment about character creation, the roundup as it were. Where to start is the usual question, and the truth is, start wherever you want. Everyone's different, we all have different processes. None of them are wrong, they are just different. Some people create the character before they write them, for others writing the character is their creation. As I've mentioned before, characters don't always do what you expect them to do, and sometimes they will tell you how to write them. They actually take on a life of their own. This is usually the sign of a well-constructed character, but be careful because it can also be the sign of a writer who didn't keep control. If you're struggling to know where to start, there are tools out there to help. I mentioned at the start of this course, write things down. If you're not sure what you need to know, or consider using a character sheet from one of the various adventure games that exist. There are lots of them out there, some more complex than others, but all of them have character sheets that you can use. And all usually have ways of generating characters randomly on the roll of a dice. That can be an absolutely great way to start and force the creator to think about how to meet the challenge of what they have before them. Of course, remember that any of these attributes can be changed. You don't have to create your character in stone. It's a piece of paper, use a pencil, rub it out if you don't like it, change it. If you feel you need to, change what you've got. And if you feel that the character needs to change in the story, then change them, put them through some kind of learning or transformational experience. If you don't want to use those things, then just use a notebook. That's what I do these days. I just keep small A6 size notebooks and jot down in there when I change something. I actually have a character database that I used to use, but what I found was when I was writing not on the computer, if I had something I needed to add, it wasn't that easy to remember to do it, which is why I went back to pen and paper. You might prefer a corkboard with sticky notes or a list pad. I know some writers use image sites like Pinterest. Do whatever floats your boat, whatever works for you. I am strongly recommending that you keep a note of who and what your character is. How you keep that note is entirely up to you. The only thing I don't recommend is trying to keep a record solely in your head. That might seem easy at first when you've only got a couple of characters, but the more characters you create, the more you develop them, the more difficult that is going to get. If you don't really know what a character looks like, use photographs or artworks. A lot of writers that I know actually use things like IMDb or just go through the internet or magazines and take pictures of her face and then describe that face. So they've always got a picture, a very clear picture of what that character looks like. That's not my way of doing things, but again, it works for them. If it works for you, go for it. I even know some people who use tarot cards as leads. Do whatever works for you, because there is a good chance that the nature of description and the nature of human faces, that even if you take the most famous actor that you can think of and describe them what you think is perfectly, the reader won't instantly recognise that actor and will envisage somebody themselves anyway. Those faces are just simply notoriously difficult to describe well. It's one of the reasons that eyewitness accounts are difficult for the police and that mistaken identity happens all the time. It's also one of the reasons that we have so many look-alike competitions. Another issue that comes up in real life is that people do sometimes contradict themselves. I've mentioned this briefly before. Sometimes people act against their own nature. If you're going to use that, then keep it reasoned and reasonable, and more importantly, keep it important to the story. If someone's changed the nature of their behaviour, that could be because they've gone through a transformational process, and that's something that should be on the page. However, it could be out of character. Why have they done that? What are they doing? Are they doing it under duress? Is there some additional force being applied to make them act in a certain way? That's a item used in a lot of crime fiction, someone being put under duress and stress and made to do something they wouldn't normally do. Acting out of character almost always has a reason. The motivation isn't always obvious, but it will be there. You also need, if somebody's doing that, you need to explain it by the end of the story. As a writer, you need to know as much as you can about your character, but it doesn't always have to go into the story. You certainly doesn't have to be there the instant that a character walks on a page. I had an editor once who said, well, you didn't tell me that when this character appeared first. Well, no, because you don't learn everything about a character the second they walk on to the page. Same as we don't know another person's personality the second that we meet them. We can be fooled. It's how con artists work. You will learn things over time. It's just the same as you do with real people. You can show different aspects of your character over the course of the story. You may also find that your character acts differently with different characters. A loving father may be a loving father, but he might be a real pain when he's a boss in work. That kind of thing. And that's actually real nature. That's what happens with real people. When I was writing Inspector Jensen in the Aether Chronicles, I didn't know that this man was Jewish until halfway round book 2. But as soon as he told me, it made perfect sense. And yes, I do talk about my characters if they're real people, because for me they are. Because if I can't see them as real people, how can I make you see them as real people? So yes, sometimes characters develop as you're writing them. Again, that is fine. Let it happen. Just make sure that the character is consistent throughout the work, or they go through the correct transformational experience. The key to this is actually writing down whatever it is that you've made them do and whatever it is you've said about them. I didn't, and I once ended up writing a character who had blue eyes in one scene and green eyes in another. It's a little detail that other readers picked up on instantly and I didn't see. Make sure that each character is different and identifiable, even if they are alike. Again, in the Aether Chronicles, I have 2 sets of twins, but they act in a way that makes each twin identifiable. No character is black and white. They, as all humans, are all shades of grey. So if you have a villain, don't make him a pantomime villain. Don't make him just 2-dimensional. Don't make him all bad. In the chair, I've got a character in here called Baron. Now, this guy, Baron, didn't seem that important to me, but he's actually attracted a very strange kind of following. Baron is the bad guy, but he's not evil, and he's actually quite likeable. He does what he does because he's never had any choice to do anything better. That doesn't make him blacker than black. It's just greyer than most. And again, that's fine. Make people different. No one is ever universally liked. There's no such person on this earth. Even Princess Diana had her detractors. But there are also very few people that are entirely hated either. Yeah, even Hitler had his supporters. Try to avoid stereotypes. Now, this is actually difficult because stereotypes exist for a reason. If we didn't use stereotypes in our day-to-day lives, we would be so bombarded with information that we could, as humans, just couldn't process it. So there's always a truth within a stereotype, but they never hold to all of the possibilities of the thing being stereotyped. It's okay to use some elements, but don't make the stereotype all there is to that character. Mix things up. You might want to have a character play up a stereotype against another character. It would depend on what you're writing, but even there, if your stereotype is something other than your own, be very careful how you do this, as it can cause huge offence. If you're going to write outside your own knowledge, then there are a few things to remember. People are people, whatever their creed, colour or religion. But do your research. A middle-aged white woman from the suburbs, me, is not going to be very convincing writing a Muslim boy from the inner city, though I do think Kareem Rahman has done a great job with J. Kassim. If you ever get a chance to read them, they're well worth it. Read around your subject. I've made a deliberate choice this year to read a lot of books that focus on people of colour, so that I can understand them better and so that I can write them better, because I want my writing to reflect the fact that we do live in a multicultural world. So I want to include a much wider diversity of people in my work. This also helps when I'm editing. I've just finished editing a book that's based in South Africa, had black and white people, so I had to really think about how the cultural difference would make an impact to that book. And this is going to sound weird, but that's all there is actually to it. Characters are literally the life and soul of your writing, so get to know them. Let them tell you what they want to do, but most importantly, make sure that these characters, who are going to be in your head for a long time, are realistic. Have fun with them. Try to like them if you possibly can, even the bad ones. And that's it from me. I hope you found this course useful. And if you need anything more, rewatch the series or go and speak to your librarians. They can point you in the area of writing help books. Or if you need to find me, you can find my website at gailbwilliams.co.uk. A big thank you for Welsh Libraries for giving me this opportunity, and thanks to you for joining me. So go on, go and have fun and go create. Goodbye.